What up, everybody, and welcome back to the Stat Lines Matter Fantasy Show. Sorry we missed you the past 2 weeks, but we are back as promised. Still down 1/3 of our three-man, I guess the threesome greasome, if you will. But Anthony and I will hold it down. Instead, Mark will be back soon. And if you're joining us for the first time, Stat Lines Matter is a sports podcast. We release content weekly. Normally on Wednesdays, we release a new podcast once a week. We also release new content on all of our social media platforms. That's TikTok, that's YouTube, that's Instagram, and that's Facebook. My partner Mark and I. So we are in full swing. We are back. And Anthony, how are you, buddy?
Man, I'm glad to be back. I missed you guys. I missed being
Man,
here.
yes, due to Thanksgiving and all of that good stuff. And if you're joining us for the first time, please go follow us on all those socials. Follow us at statlinesmatter across all major social media platforms. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe button here. It helps us out a ton. Anthony, how was your Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great. I was working.
Oh,
I was on shift for that day, but it was still good. We had a good time at work. We got my family gave me some good leftovers, so it was good.
so while the rest of us were pretty much feeding our faces and spending money and getting more unhealthy, you were making money.
Trying to, at least.
Okay, so now we are heading, for most people, we are headed into the week right before the playoffs. So for a bunch of people out there who haven't yet made or secured their playoff spot in season long fantasy football, this is actually a de facto playoff game. How are you sitting in your leagues?
Yeah, this is in a lot of leagues. This is the last week before the playoffs begin next week, and so it's a big week for win or go home for a lot of teams. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I'll be honest with the podcast and then starting the new job with the data center. I kind of punted most of my redraft leagues this year. I just kind of went for the swing the fences route and just go big or go home. I knew I wouldn't have a whole lot of time to really dedicate to those leagues. So it's been fun. It was actually a lot of fun. I made a lot of really fun calls, and it was cool to see how some of those played out. Actually, in one of my main redraft leagues, I got eliminated from the playoffs last week. It was a close one. It was one of those nail biters. It was great. It came down to the wire, man. I had Chris Olave going up against Chris Godwin in that Monday night game, and that last catch for 9 yards that Godwin got that eliminated me from the playoffs right there. Otherwise I had a really good shot at getting in. So it was kind of fun that it came down to that. You kind of hope for one of those games at some point in the season in your fantasy league. So that's why we play. It was really good. Dynasty league, that's my baby. And of course, I'm dominating. In second place, I'm sitting pretty. Got the
Okay.
bye week locked down for the playoffs. I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
I'm tied. I'm tied with first place, but they got the tiebreaker. I think 80 points on the season or something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of times, in season long, how the standings are at the moment isn't necessarily a reflection of how your team's playing at that particular time, just given the fact of all the ad drops, free agency moves that are made, different trades, different roster construction, injuries, and things of that nature. So a lot of times, the standings are not necessarily a complete picture of what's going on, how strong your team is, and obviously, what it really boils down to, for the most part, is your matchups going into those final 3 weeks. Again, if you're joining us for the first time, we are Stat Lines Matter. We do this podcast, our fantasy podcast, at 9 o'clock on Wednesdays. Anthony Lukasik is our season-long dynasty and redraft expert. He's also an expert in DFS as well, daily fantasy. I'm more of a daily fantasy guy. I also do play season-long, but I bring on this particular show, I bring more of a DFS, daily fantasy sports take to the show, and Anthony breaks down more of the season long. But together, we, along with Mark, we form Voltron, and we try to give you guys some winning picks each week. So, Anthony, are you ready to get into our first matchup?
Let's do it. Let's rock it.
Okay, so we got the Eagles against the Giants, 44 and a half over under. The Eagles are favored by 7, and we got a 44% chance of rain in the forecast. So tell us what you see.
Yeah, in a game that I don't really see a whole lot of passing going to be happening to begin with. This should be a pretty run heavy game on both sides of the ball, and so if that rain is a factor, it's probably going to lean even heavier that way. Philly's defense, They're incredible. They lead the league in almost every category. I mean, they're first in yards per attempt for passing, only allowing a 5.3 yards per attempt, 60% completion rate, 60.3. I mean, these guys are great. And so, as far as the Giants side of the ball, I'm looking at Saquon and pretty much only Saquon. He's been fantastic this year. Thank God. It's really nice to see him come back from the couple injury riddled seasons. Nice to see him be Saquon again. It really is. But Darius Slayton is the only other one I'd say. He could be a decent flex play if you need to take a shot. He's been pretty solid as of late, just against this Philly defense. I think garbage time is what you're looking for. He could be in line for some garbage time fun. But otherwise, I see Danny Dimes getting slapped around a ton in this one. On the flip side of the ball, Philly's just been on fire. What more can you say about Jalen Hurts than a definite MVP candidate this year? And so, with Philadelphia, I think that you can go so far into the run is that Kenneth Gainwell could actually be a decent deeper play in this one, especially with 6 teams on bye during this week 14. If you're trying to squeeze something into the playoffs, he could be a guy that you might need to lean on. All traditional pieces should flourish. I'm not really looking to squeeze Devontae Smith into my lineup unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah, looking at this game from a DFS standpoint, you basically hit each and every point because a lot of it applies here as far as the rushing is concerned, particularly with Jalen Hurts, who has 9 rushing touchdowns. That's 5th in the league of overall, like including running backs. He has 9 rushing touchdowns, 21 passing touchdowns. He's averaging 27 DK that's DraftKings points per game. I think that last week, I'm not expecting last week when they played the Titans, they threw the ball 39 times. And it wasn't even the game wasn't even a contest. They won 35-10. I just couldn't figure out why the team who runs the ball, I believe the 3rd most in the league, turned into a Mike Martz offense, but they did. And so they didn't necessarily follow the personality, if you will, of their defense. But you can't, when you're trying to construct a DraftKings or daily fantasy lineup, you can't use aberrations, if you will, to construct your, for roster construction. You have to take that one game as basically the aberration and move forward. So I think that, again, with Jalen Hurts, I think is a great pick at 8.1K, especially given the rain. I don't necessarily see them throwing the ball around like they did last week. I think they return more to what their offensive identity is, which is running the ball. Miles Sanders is a guy at 6.2K, only averaging 15 fantasy points a game. I think he's an avoid when you got guys out there like Deontay Foreman who is looking at who's regularly approaching 20 carries a game, and with the nice matchup, he's a guy that I would look to turn to for $800 less. And it's interesting, when I was looking at this, AJ Brown is he's 8K, right? He's 8K on DK, and Smith is 6.3K, but Smith is averaging more targets. He's averaging almost 3 more targets than Anthony than Brown, and I didn't know that. Particularly over the last 4 weeks, I wasn't aware that he was averaging that many more targets than Brown. So I think that situation, if you're looking for a deeper dive for particularly a general prize pool, so one of your large field tournaments, Smith is a very sneaky play, particularly because he didn't necessarily go off like Brown did. So if you're looking for a deep play, he's a guy that you can look to. The tight end is an avoid until Goddard gets back next week. This is his last week on IR. They've been running more of a committee approach with Calcaterra and Stoll. So I think that's an avoid. On the Giants side of things, man, you're looking at Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has thrown 11 touchdowns and rushed for 4 the entire season. I don't know how they have the record that they have. I mean, for context, Mariota's thrown 15 and ran for 4. And you wouldn't necessarily, I mean, everyone's pretty much down on Mariota, including myself. But you look at the records and they're completely, everyone's looking at Daniel Jones as having some big turnaround season, because of, winning basically is the best deodorant. So, I would probably, like you said, go look more towards a Saquon Barkley. But Saquon Barkley is $8,000. And he still, to me, hasn't had the season that you would expect him to, particularly coming in a contract year. When he first came out, of the league. His first year, he had 91 catches. And that's the thing that I believe everyone was so stoked about, was the fact that he had rushed for 1,300, had 91 catches. Right now, he's got 40. He's basically averaging a little over 3 catches a game. So for 8K, you're looking for somebody that's, gonna put up some real decent numbers, and you don't want them. You wouldn't want to start him in a game where the game script particularly doesn't look like it's going to allow for him to get those 20 to 25 carries. So if you wanted to start, again, deeper play in a tournament, there's a guy that I like that I almost played last week for the Giants, in Isaiah Hodgkins. Isaiah Hodgkins has really stepped up, particularly since Richie James has come up with that bulky knee. In each of the last 4 weeks, he's had 2 targets, 3 targets, 4, and last week 6, and a touchdown. He was also out there for 80% snap share. So at 3.5K, he's a guy that you can look at. And but basically for all intents for your cash games, I would probably avoid pretty much everyone except for Jalen Hurts. It's particularly and especially like with the rain, you don't want to, if you can avoid guys, look, in season long, you're playing these guys, you're playing your Hurts, you're playing your AJ Browns, you're playing those guys, but you're playing Saquon, you're never going to bench him. But for DK, for DFS purposes, this is a game that I would definitely stay away from. So I guess we move on to our next game. I was a little more long-winded than what I thought I was going to be.
I was going to say, from the guy who's got to go early. Let's go.
Yes. Look like we got a question here though, from MJ23. We got Christian Kirk versus Tennessee, or Allen versus Miami. Lukasik, take it away.
Oh, that's a tough one. As Rob was talking about with the last game, with Philly against the Tennessee Titans last game, with AJ Brown going off and all that. The Tennessee Titans defense, you can obviously very easily pass on them. I really like Kirk this week. Keenan Allen, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna actually about to break this down. I'll give you a little teaser here. Xavier Howard scares the crap out of me when it comes to Keenan Allen. I'm looking for something in the realm of like 6 for 60 out of Allen in this game. I think he's going to be needed, and he's going to squeeze a few out there, but I don't know about a big game, man. That's Mac Holland and Xavier Howard are going to be pretty tough for Keenan Allen to overcome for a ton of points here, but Kirk can definitely break one off. And so I would probably lean the higher upside that way.
Okay. All right. So next up, we have the Dolphins -3, 52-point over under against the Chargers. That's our Sunday night game. Lukasik, you liking anybody out of this game? I know with that total being so high, I mean, this seems like one that if you got players going this week, this seems like, and if your playoff hopes are in the balance, this is a game that you'd like to have some guys that you're rostering. How do you see it breaking down?
Yeah, I was gonna say, with the Philly Giants game that we just broke down being one that we kind of want to avoid. This one is my pick more for like the barn burner of the week type. I think that you could definitely see a lot of points scored on this one. I definitely like the Dolphins offense to get back on track. I like this to be a really good get right game for Tua. The Chargers defense they've been awful this year, and unfortunately so, because they're loaded with talent. It's been kind of crazy, but Tua is still nursing that ankle, so be a little bit careful there. Otherwise, I think he's going to get the ball out quick, and Tyreek Hill's going to do his thing. I think both Mostert and Jeff Wilson will both be playable here. I think it's kind of a coin flip on which one's production's better. I kind of lean Wilson, but not by much. Jalen Waddle's a little bit of a concern. He's still nursing the leg injury, and so monitor his status. If he sees any kind of reduced utilization at all, I think Trent Sherfield could really benefit here. They brought Cedric Wilson in during the offseason, but he just really hasn't stepped up to be the receiver they were hoping would be. Trent Sherfield, though, he's been kind of a home run hitter. He started to play first play of the game last week against San Francisco, broke it to the house. What was it, like 75 yards?
75.
Yeah, and so he could definitely be a guy to keep your eye on. On the other side of the ball, I definitely think Big Herbs is going to be passing a lot. Over 40 yards, over 40 pass attempts rather, in 5 out of the last 7 games for Herbert. That's a ton. This guy's dropping back. I don't know what this offensive coordinator is doing, but with Mike Williams back at practice in a limited fashion, he could suit up this week. So keep an eye on that. Otherwise, Eckler should be a PPR machine in this one. I don't really like him as much in standard formats. A little bit less exciting for me because, again, I think Herbert's going to be dropping back a lot. But this could be a little bit of a cat and mouse game here with Miami getting up, but Herbert, trying to keep up. He's going to have the room to do it, so we'll see if he can get it done this week.
Yeah, this game isn't on the main slate, but it was one of the higher totals on the board, so I wanted to fit it into our show, given the fact that it was 52 points, and obviously both offenses are fun to watch. You're looking at the Chargers from a percentage standpoint. They passed the ball the second most in the league. The Dolphins passed it the fifth most in the league. This is a game that you just want to sit back. Hopefully, you got a couple guys going. I have Palmer, hoping that Mike Williams isn't 100%, even if he does play. I'm playing him regardless if he does play, simply because they throw the ball so much. So a guy fitting in at the slot, he won't receive the attention that he would get from a secondary in Palmer. So he's going to be like, so I'm playing him regardless if Mike Williams comes back or not. Obviously, if Mike Williams is out, he's a must start in my opinion. But again, when you got two top five offenses that are throwing the ball around in pristine weather, you can't go wrong. So, there's not really a whole lot here you don't want to overthink the room in a particular matchup like this. Again, I'm not so much high on the Dolphins run game. Now I get it because the Chargers are putrid against the run, out giving up over 5 yards a carry. So if you have one of those guys, I totally understand, especially if you don't have a lot of depth at your running back position, that you would start a Wilson or you would start Mostert. But they ran the ball a total last week of 8 times. 8 times. Wilson got 1 carry and Mostert got 7. So I can totally see that happening again, just given the rhythm of the game. So hey, look, if you got those guys, God bless you. If you got the quarterbacks, you're sitting there, you're looking good, especially if you have a Tua or you got Herbert, you got either one of those guys, you're sitting pretty this week, and hopefully they'll get you over, and hopefully the game actually lives up to the hype, right? We don't want to see 10-13, we want to see 37-34. So
okay, we definitely could in this one.
So we have another question. Lukasik, we have White QB from the Jets. This third week QB from the Jets versus Buffalo, or Huntley versus Pitt. And we're about to get into that game in a second.
Seth, man, I gotta come on, man. As our producer screening these questions, man, you got to quit asking us questions about players that we're about to cover. We're about to cover these games, man. Come on, ask these after the breakdown. Let's go. But no, for real, good job sifting through these, man, and making sure that we got good content to go over here. This is a great question because Mike White, look, I love the rest of the schedule going into the playoffs, but I'm talking playoffs only for Mike White. Against Buffalo, I'm not looking to play him at all. Tyrone Huntley versus Pittsburgh, though, I love this dude. Where I'm about to break into this, one of the things that I wanted to mention in this upcoming breakdown that we're about to do is that Tyrone Huntley looks fantastic in preseason, and he actually looked pretty gosh darn good last week in relief of Lamar Jackson as well. I really like him against Pittsburgh in this one. With Pittsburgh's defense, they're kind of a Jekyll and Hyde thing. They allow a lot of yardage, but then they're also really good on the turnovers. And so I'm a little bit worried about Tyrone Huntley turning over the ball a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think his fantasy production is going to be there. I think I like him for 20 plus points this week. I definitely roll with Tyrone Huntley.
Yeah, so that game that we're talking about is the Ravens versus Pittsburgh. The over-under is 37. Pitt is actually, I think, favorite for the first time all season, -2.5. There is a 38% chance of rain in this game. So, the interesting thing about Huntley is that in his first 3 starts last year, he faced 3 top 10 defenses. He faced the Bears, who was a top 10 defense last year, Green Bay, and also Cleveland, who was another top 10 defense last year. And then in through 5 starts, he won the first game. And in the next 4 starts, they lost all 4 of them, but by a combined score of 7 points across 4 games. So it lets you know that this guy, given those, obviously, you're facing 3 top 10 defenses right out of the chute. I think this is the type of game. This is probably going to be the easiest defense that he's faced as a starter since he's been in the league. So I like him a lot too. For DFS, he's at 5.4K. I'm sorry, 5.5K. So he's a guy, and obviously, he's got some wheels on him. So in DFS, we know in most of your scoring, whether it's daily fantasy or season long fantasy, it really rewards, the scoring really leans more towards rewarding those guys that can make some plays with their legs. Obviously, if you're in some leagues, passing touchdown counts for 4, rushing touchdown can count for 7 or 6, depending upon how they have it slotted. But either way, when your quarterback is running the ball, getting first downs, and maybe you can push 1 or 2 quarterback sneaks across the goal line, those are the plays that really can start to see your score really start to get up there. So he's a guy that I like a lot. Interesting enough, and Anthony, I'm gonna let you continue. I don't want to say I like the receivers, but don't be surprised if you see Proche or Deshaun Jackson get into the end zone. Huntley, we see a lot of these guys who come in, in the second string quarterback come in. They have more of a connection with those second string receivers. Deshaun Jackson's been there since October. He's been on the practice squad. They've just now elevated him permanently. Don't be surprised if you see them connect on 1 or 2 big plays this coming up week. For Baltimore. And last week you saw the way that he played against one of the best defenses in the league in Denver. So I think this will be, I don't want to say it's going to be necessarily a defensive siesta for Huntley, but I think he'll find his sledding a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Like I said, I really like Tyrone Huntley. I think that he's got a great chance to go off this week. He's actually a really good quarterback. I like him to be a starting quarterback elsewhere in the league in a couple of years once his contract is done over in Baltimore. He's not going to stay Lamar's backup forever. Yeah, I definitely like him to have a good connection with some of the other guys, some of the auxiliary pieces. And look, someone's got to step up for the Baltimore Ravens wide receiver room, right? With Rashad Bateman out, Devin Duvernay, he's not the one. He's not going to be, Demarcus Robinson trying to step up, not really getting it done as much as we'd like to see. Somebody's got to do it. And so, yeah, no, that's definitely a great call. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you look at a guy like Andrews who hadn't scored since week 6, right? Hadn't been in the end zone in 5. This will be the 6th week coming up. I wouldn't necessarily shy away from him in DFS daily fantasy. He's 6.5K though, so it's pretty pricey. But for those of guys who have Andrews in season long, if you're down on the quarterback situation, don't be so much. I think that he has an opportunity to to see some better looks closer to the end zone. Obviously it couldn't get any worse. Again, man, we're going on a month and a half with no touchdowns for Andrew. So, and then we know that a lot of times when guys, when the second string comes in, they're looking for those checkdowns. They're looking for, easy completions because they're not necessarily as comfortable getting the ball downfield. So Andrews, I think, is a decent play as well. So what do you think? What are you thinking on the Pittsburgh side, if anything?
Yeah, real quick, I just want to correct myself too. I've been calling him Tyrone Huntley. It's Tyler Huntley. I'm sorry, Tyler Huntley.
Out of Utah.
Getting him a little bit mixed up. Yeah, yeah, pretty common last name. And so on the Pittsburgh side of the ball, I like, for Najee in the backfield, he's been great. 5.1 a carry last week. He's been stepping it up over the last few weeks. He's actually been kind of usable and reliable lately, which is nice to see. I don't see him. I see a little bit of a rewind here. Going back to a little bit more pedestrian Najee that we were saying earlier in the season in this game. We'll see. This is one that I'm really, really interested in, especially because Pittsburgh's got Baltimore in week 17. So for all you guys looking at Najee for a potential championship play, this is going to be a really telling game. So I pay attention to what he does here. Outside of that, I'll tell you what I'd like to see is I'd like to see Pittsburgh start utilizing the short area passing game a lot more. Get the ball out of Kenny Pickett's hands a lot quicker. He doesn't have the offensive line for these plays to develop like Pittsburgh likes to do. They like to throw the ball downfield. Pickett likes to throw the ball downfield. Get this quarterback into a rhythm early. Get him into a rhythm quick. I really like Freiermuth in this game.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at Pittsburgh. They won a close game last week against the Falcons. They won 3 out of their last 4. So from a football perspective, you love it. From a fantasy perspective, you don't love it so much. And I don't love this game, particularly for the Pittsburgh side, because in fantasy you want the offense to be able to put pressure on the other team so that your quarterback can has a reason to push the ball. So there's a little bit more sense of urgency to make some plays, especially if they get down. 10, 14 points. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world because, when they come back out there, there's going to be a little more sense of urgency to make some plays. So I see this as a low. I would maybe even play the under in this game. For a sneaky play though, I like Pickens at 5K. Last week he only had 2 targets and he let everybody know about it. And you're looking at Deontay Johnson right now. Deontay Johnson is sitting at 105 targets, 105 right now. That's seventh in the league. Seventh in the league with, and he hasn't done much with those targets. Now, true enough, were all those targets catchable? Probably not. But you looking at Pickens, this is a guy that has been making plays, been making lemonade out of lemons, with his limited attempts. Well, that's a lot of L's there, but with his limited attempts, with the balls thrown his way, and you gotta think he's going to get more than 2 looks in this game coming up against the Baltimore secondary. They'll probably, I don't know if they're shading any coverage towards Deontay Johnson way, but they're not going to be shading any coverage, I don't think, the Pickens way either. So I believe that the P2P connection wouldn't surprise me to see him get a couple more opportunities. And I think with a guy like Pickens, particularly with his athletic ability, all he needs seemingly is just chances. So at 5K, I wouldn't mind taking a shot on him again in some tournaments. I like Pat Freiermuth a lot myself, particularly in fantasy. He's 4.5K. That's $2,000 less than Mark Andrews. He has, I believe, 6 less catches. So on the season, 50 catches for Freiermuth. I believe 56 for Andrews. So, and Andrews got 4 more touchdowns, but he ain't scored since week 6. So I would take the discount in daily fantasy for 4.5K and grab a guy like Freiermuth, and I wouldn't look back. So that's how I would play this. So I would look for, so to review. I like the second string guys on Baltimore side a little bit more than I like, say, Robinson and Duvernay. And I like, that just occurred to me. So they got 2 Texas receivers. Oh no, Prochet went to in the state of Texas. He went to SMU, and Duvernay went to Texas. Sorry. But anyway, I like those guys. And then for on the receiver side, I like Pickens to get a couple more opportunities his way. So you got any starts and sits, or you want to do your Bears corner?
Yeah, let's roll into the starts and sits. I mean, not much of a Bears corner this week with the bye week, right? So I think we could just skip that for now, and we'll end this with the starts and sits and get you out of here. I think we got about 2.5 minutes left, right?
Okay.
All right, let's go. Excuse me, I got a cough. Still battling this cold, but I'm just glad to be back.
You want to answer this question
last week. Yeah, let's go. Let's shoot for the question.
Okay, we got Devonta Smith versus the Giants, or Tyler Higgins, or Higgins versus Cleveland. T. Higgins. Sorry.
Yeah, T. Higgins. Yeah. I think I'd probably roll with T. Higgins in this one against Cleveland over trying to force Devonta Smith. Again, I just see the Giants-Philly game being just too much of a running game. You could get lucky with Smith getting a TD in there, but I think Higgins is a safer play.
Yeah, I do too. And as you can see with Higgins, he doesn't need much. He only had 3 targets last week, got in the end zone. Obviously, he's the second receiver to Jamar Chase, but there's been plenty of games where, regularly last season, I believe he had over 120 targets. So he gets number 1 type production just because of the offense. So I would absolutely lean Higgins in this one. But again, if you went, we got another one. Okay. We got AU.
We'll just do this for our starts and sits. Let's do it.
Okay.
We're here for the fans anyway, right?
Yeah. AU versus Tampa, or Cooper versus Cincinnati. Who you like?
Oh man, yeah. Brandon Ayuk's been fantastic lately. Gosh, with Brock Purdy, that's a tough question though. And then let's see, Amari Cooper versus Cincinnati. Cooper's at home. Let's just say let's roll with home with Amari Cooper. But gosh, Deshaun Watson though.
No, they're on the road. They're on the road at Cincinnati. They're not at home.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're at Cincinnati.
Oh, okay. Oh, then it's road Cooper. Road Cooper is not the same as home Cooper. Oh goodness. Plus, you got Deshaun Watson too. Oh gosh, yeah, that's a tough one to trust. I'm gonna go with Ayuk. Let's go Ayuk.
Ayuk. Oh, okay. All right, I like Cooper in this one. I like Cooper in this one.
I don't blame you.
I picked up Deshaun Watson 2 weeks ago. I actually started him when he was suspended, just so I could go ahead and have him, and I didn't have to because I locked up a playoff spot a little bit early, so I didn't necessarily have to, and I needed a second quarterback. So I'm using these two games for Deshaun Watson as basically preseason games in hopes that he regains some of that Pro Bowl form. So I actually look for him, and he's still I believe Cooper still got upwards of 9 to 10 targets last week. So I don't think that Deshaun lost any arm strength. I just think it's a lot of rust. Now, how much rust can he knock off in 6 days? Probably not a
That's what I'm
whole
skeptical on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Watson's going to hyper target his number one. He's always done that, right? Look at DeAndre Hopkins back when they were in Houston together. But I just don't see him being the quarterback that he was this year. I'm just really skeptical on Deshaun Watson the rest of the season. Really was going into last week. I gave him a flyer in I think one of my leagues, but you know, uh, he just what we saw in the preseason was just so entirely terrifying. He just the rush just looked real. I think give the boy the rest of the year. Let him get used to the team. Let him get used to being back on the field again. Next year coming out, if he's not the same, then we'll readdress and we'll reevaluate at that point. I think.
One caveat here though is that first of all, he played against Lovey's defense is not bad against the pass at all. The second thing is the Cleveland Browns scored 3 defensive touchdowns. So that took the offense off the field for 3 entire possessions, which is a lot. And the last thing is that Kyle Allen wasn't going to press anybody. And Brandon Cooks didn't even play. So you didn't have there wasn't a lot of pressure to actually make plays. You had a punt return. I think you had a fumble return, and you had another defensive touchdown. I believe it was a pick six in there somewhere. So if you had the Cleveland defense, you did quite well last week. But I don't think there was the pressure wasn't necessarily there for them to actually have to make plays. And I believe that with Cincinnati, there's going to be some pressure. There's going to be because they're going to score some points. You would think they were going to score some points. So at least that's and I got to admit, there's a little bit of hope in that take as well. I have to be fully transparent here with my analysis. So let's get your starts and sits, Anthony.
Sure. Running through this real quick. The QB streamer I like this week is Jared Goff. DeAndre Swift at the running back position, I think, is a definite slam dunk. I love his utilization this week. Last week, rather, it looks like he's got his backfield back. So I think you can lean into that. DJ Moore, man, he's been a huge boom or bust play this year. Spin the wheel, kind of roll the dice, kind of. I think you can play DJ Moore this week. Tight end streamer for the week for me is give me that Hunter Henry. I love that matchup against Arizona. For my sits, QB 10 on the year, Danny Dimes, not against Philly. Danny Dimes will be my sit this week. No kidding though. QB 10 on the year. Can you believe that? I'm going to do everyone a favor here at the running back position. My official advice is that you should sit Cam Akers against Las Vegas, which of course means that he's now going to have a great game. You're welcome. Let's face it, with Akers, it's going to take some weird fantasy voodoo magic not to sweat while you're looking at him in your lineup, right? Gabe Davis is another boom bust receiver. I think this week against with Gabe Davis, I think you're going to bench him with this week. And then going up against Sauce Gardner with the Jets, I think it's going to be a little bit too spicy for me. And then I'm not digging Foster Moreau in his last game before Darren Waller comes back at the tight end position.
Okay, so we don't like Cam. We staying away from Sauce. Okay, I like it. Yeah. All right, so for me, for your DK streamer picks, if that's a streamer pick, I like Jared Goff too. It's interesting that we great minds think alike, or at least I like thinking alike you. I don't hope you ain't got to think like me, but I feel like when I agree with you, I feel like I got some good mojo going. But
we get some mind melding going on from time to time, absolutely. And I do like Goff this week for my DFS lineup. Expect to see him in my DK lineup I send you this week.
Okay, so he's at 5.6K. They're actually favored by 2.5, and the over under is 52. So we love that. We love high over unders, and obviously Cousins and that offense are, they can push the ball down the field. That's exactly what we want. They're playing in Ford Field. We know that that's a friendly place, one of the only friendly places that people can visit, especially if you play offense in the NFL, because Detroit, very unfriendly place. But inside Ford Field, opposing offense, very friendly. Plus, you got security protecting you all around the building. So it's not that, you can go in there and work stress-free. But as far as DK is concerned, the Vikings are 27th against quarterbacks, and they're 30th against wide receivers. So that adds up to a great cocktail to start, obviously, the Detroit receivers and Goff. The second pick is Deontay Foreman at running back for the Carolina Panthers for 5.4K. 4 out of his last 6 games, he's gone over 100 yards. This game right here has they're 4-point dogs, but I believe that the game should be competitive enough against Seattle to where they can keep him in the game script. Not to mention, Seattle is 31st in points given up and fantasy points given up. So he's a guy that I actually like a lot. I'm starting him in season long as well. And my last pick, some may be surprised by this, some may not, is Garrett Wilson for the New York Jets. I look for him to keep it going. He had 15 targets last week. He's going up against the Buffalo Bills defense. Now, some may say, what are you doing? Buffalo Bills defense, they're awesome, and they are. But you can eat against them. So in 3 weeks, we had Jefferson go for 193. The next week, we had Amari Cooper go for over 102 touchdowns. And then St. Brown went for 122 yards and 1 touchdown in 3 consecutive weeks. So number ones have eaten basically against this defense, particularly in the back half of this season, for 4 consecutive weeks. So, well, 3 and hopefully 4 coming up. So I don't think you have to stay away. I think that if you've held on to Wilson, he's about to pay off big for you going into the playoffs. God bless you if you do have him. If he's on your waiver wire, I don't know why he would still be on there, but go pick him up ASAP. So those are my DFS picks. You'll see those. I guess we can work on a lineup as we always do weekly, and hopefully we can take something that have a better week than we had last week, brother.
Yeah. Last week was a little bit of a letdown, but it happens.
That's okay. That's okay. So look, if you guys are just joining us or this was your first show, we are Stat Lines Matter. We are the Stat Lines Matter Fantasy Show. We are down one man this week, Mark Stewart. He is our normal host. We'll hope to have him back next week. Again, Anthony Lukasik, the season long guy. I'm the DFS guy. We are a weekly podcast as well. We put out content on YouTube weekly on Wednesdays. We have we're Stat Lines Matter. We put out content across all major social media platforms. That's Facebook, that's TikTok, that is Instagram, and that's there's one more now I'm forgetting. But we're all over the place. So please subscribe, hit the like button, and when you follow us, DM us. Tell us how you found us so that we can shout you out. Anthony, great show again today.
Hey man,
and great to be back.
Glad to be back. Great to be back.
Great to be back. So we will be back next week, same time, same bat station, which is YouTube at Stat Lines Matter. Look forward to seeing you again. Please send your questions. Please just continue to send them in all throughout the week. DM us your fantasy questions at our Stat Lines Matter on any of our social medias, any of our social media pages, and we'll be sure to fit those questions in. Anthony, till next week.
Peace.
We're Stat Lines Matter.